Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Not That You Asked. And I am one mental breakdown away from strangling myself with my phone cord. So, as good a time as any to talk about PTSD, right? Um, anyway, the whole reason that I'm going to try and grin like an idiot through this not movie video, is because, like I said, I'm just kind of on the verge of a breakdown. I'm currently out of town for training for work because I have to be, because it's required. And my phone decided of all times to have this hardware issue where it was reboot looping. So it's good stuff, and it can't be replaced. And my warranty isn't showing, and my warranty is showing, but they still won't replace it, and they won't trade it out. And I keep getting the runaround, and I'm fucking ecstatic. So anyway, getting into discussion with PTSD, for those of you who don't know, or maybe for those of you who do, but you've only researched it on Tumblr, PTSD is post traumatic stress disorder. A lot of people get this because they were veterans, they've been exposed to tremendous trauma, maybe they witnessed a murder or something like that. Mine was from through years of domestic abuse from my biological mother, typically. Um, anyway, not that I have any problem against people that are self-diagnosing. If you don't have the money for it or anything like that. But if you go on WebMD and you're trying to figure out what the heck's wrong with you when it comes up with PTSD, I mean, WebMD 9 times out of 10 tells you you're dying. Maybe even if you only have the flu, but you could die from flu, I guess. um, I was actually diagnosed by a mental health practitioner. Um, by accident for the most part. It was back when I was in college, and actually, I was attending counseling because I was 19 at the time. I had just got the restraining order against my mother. I'll refer to her mother pretty sarcastically. Tora Chen calls her my egg donor. I guess that's as good a title. Um, but yes, so she put me through a bit of hell, which I'll probably reference in future videos of Not That You Asked, and I'm just going to keep as brief as possible for now. But I had gone to counseling because I was starting to have homicidal dreams about her. By what I mean by homicidal is, you know how you have dreams where it's just like you're hitting somebody, but like there's no force behind it and it's not satisfying and it's just frustrating. It wasn't like that. I made contact with every hit, and more than a few occasions, like I'm terrified of alligators and crocodiles. Every time I have a dream about one, it's terrifying. But with her, Veronica, she's my biological mother. I would be holding her head underwater while a crocodile or alligator like eats her head off. And then I woke up one morning and decided, you know what, I probably need help. So counseling, right? And when you're at the college, I mean, counseling's pretty much free, whatever college you go to, which is one of the benefits. The problem is they're not always as helpful as they could be. It's more of the just like they make you talk about it so that you can reflect on it, and they tell you things to do like breathing exercises and meditation and yoga and dieting and all that fun stuff, which is fine, and in some scenarios that works. But when you have a severe neurological, damage that has occurred, it doesn't do much. So it was when I was going to see this counselor and she went on maternity leave that I actually came in contact with a mental health practitioner because she was taking over this woman's position as she was on maternity leave. All right. I'm going to be repeating myself a lot because I'm so furious about everything going on in my life, and this is the only way I can keep from screaming my head off or jumping off a balcony and I'm on the edge. I'm on the edge. Um anyway, so I got diagnosed by her. Annie is her first name. I don't remember her last name, but she's an actual mental health practitioner. Which means she's actually certified to diagnose, give medication, and all that fun stuff. She was part of a is still in Omaha, Nebraska. I lost her business card. I stopped keeping track of it when I tried to get a hold of her to say, "Hey, I'm still having trouble even 2 years later," and that was some time ago because I'm 26 now, and I never got a hold of anybody. Nobody ever called me back, which is, it's great. Um, so yeah. Anyway, so I didn't keep a hold of her card, even though she was one of the few helpful people. When I first met with her, she's like, "All right, just give me a brief rundown of why you're in counseling," and I told her just like, "Oh, my biological mother is a meth head, and I had to put a restraining order on her, and she's tried to get me raped in a laundromat. She tried to sell my virginity online. She's used $60,000 of my student loan money to pay for drugs, and she's tried to leave me at gas stations in the middle of the night, and she's put me through sleep deprivation, and the only decent meal I've had is Taco Bell for like the last 3 weeks, and I've had to sleep at strangers' houses, and she keeps trying to set me up with the children that are, the spawns of her drug dealers, just so that she can get a better deal on her drugs, I guess. And just, and that's just the brief stuff from the last year, up until I got through. And it was after this little brief summary that Annie pretty much tells me, you suffer from PTSD, right? To which I said, no, good to know. But it followed in sync with what our family doctor at the time was telling me, because I actually had huge stress pains. I still have them, actually. They're not as often as they used to be, thank God. Um, and for those of you who don't know what a stress pain is, essentially it feels like you're being stabbed, like shanked, and it's twisting the blade, and it's like right here, or like right in the middle of your back, and it makes it so you can't move and you can't really do much anything, and like it's just a shooting horrible pain, and it can last anywhere from a few seconds to a few hours. It's fun stuff. um for those of my female audience that are probably watching, you're probably going to compare it a lot to cramps, um, except located in a different spot. Now, me, I can't say that it is actually similar to cramps. I would think it's a lot worse, but I've only had cramps twice in my entire life, so I don't really get the issue with cramps. But I mean, just basically figure it as if somebody has like something sharp stuck to their fingers, and then they dig it into you, and then they just rip part of you out. That's the best I can compare it to. Um so anyway, it did line up with what my doctor was telling me at the time, Dr. Freisig. He has unfortunately passed away now. But he was a really cool guy. He was about 90 something when he finally passed. He was a huge member of the community, for those of you who are around the Glenwood, Iowa area. But he had been involved with my family for generations. So I knew if I went to him with a problem, he would have a better idea of, hell. When I first showed up, he assumed I was pregnant, like every doctor does with female patients. Maybe take blood tests and urine tests and all sorts of fun stuff. And of course, I wasn't pregnant, because you have to have sex to be pregnant, right? It just, I fucking hate people. I don't want them anywhere near me. I don't want them holding my, want them inside. It fucking, I don't want it. People piss me off. Um, so lo and behold, I wasn't pregnant, but he did run a few more tests and did confirm that yes, it is stress. And he said, in his own phrasing, if I don't calm down, I'm gonna get an ulcer. Okay, well, good to know. So I got pumped full of a lot of medications, some antidepressants that I couldn't tell you the name of because they were all like trial runs, because I had like no money at the time. He didn't give me permission to work. Uh, so I had to move to Wyoming to be able to work, so I could get away from my doctor, because Glenwood's a pretty small community, even though it's right next to Council Bluffs, Omaha. Um, but yeah, so this whole thing of dealing with that, I was also put on Xanax, which I had only taken stuff like Tylenol before this, nothing stronger than that before. Um, and he put me on Xanax twice a day. And for any of you who have not been on Xanax, it pretty much knocks you the fuck out. Like I have no memory really of the first 2 weeks that I was on it, because I was basically asleep like the entire time. Um, it was awful, and it was the peak of summer in Iowa, which if you don't know that, it's super humid and miserable. Like the only times I got up were to shower or eat or use the restroom, and then I would just pass back out because I was so exhausted. The medication was supposed to help you with, not having highs or lows, and just kind of having that medium, and I was having nothing but highs or lows. Eventually after a year, I quit and I stopped taking it. I eased myself off with some valerian root, and that was it. Since then, that was when I was 20, uh, going on 21, almost 21, and I haven't had medication since then. I probably should have. But yeah, currently I've been realizing how much of a struggle it is to get any help if you have PTSD. There's always support groups, and of course, a bunch of people online that are just like, oh, you can talk to us, we're here for you, and blah, blah, blah. And just, sometimes it's not enough to just talk to somebody who sympathizes. It's not enough. You can talk to your friends, you can talk to your family. My family is a poor example. Not that they don't care. My dad is awesome, but he also doesn't have. He's one of those people that believes you can kind of, I hate to use this phrasing, but kind of pray away the depression, that it's just something in your head. But, the brain, like, it actually becomes like it's fucked when something like that happens. Like, when you have an actual disorder like PTSD or schizophrenia or bipolar depression or Munchausen by proxy, but they are neurological disorders, and like your head is it's fucked up. Like, and once it's fucked up, like, it's not going to go fully into repair. It's just you want to know how to work with it. You want to know how to have those days where everything can go wrong, but you're still able to bounce back. And 9 out of 10 times, you, you can fake it just enough to be like, this day was horrible, it sucked, I never want to do this again. But then you have those other times, and you don't think it's going to get better. um it's not necessarily suicidal. It's just a matter of, like this. I don't know if you can see this that well on the camera, but it was my first major injury aside from my concussion when I got hit by a school bus. I'll leave that for another episode, if not that you asked. But I got hit by a school bus and I only wound up with a concussion, thank God, right? That probably also has something to do with this, but I don't know. They said the CAT scan was fine when it happened. Um, but yeah, so like this, 6 stitches in my finger or whatever. This happened when I was at work, so it was workman's comp. I didn't have to pay for it, which was good. But I write and draw. And when I was told by the doctor that I was close to severing the tendon, which made it so I could my fingers, so I could write or draw, he almost made it sound like my finger would be. He did say, actually, that I was close to having my finger just permanently like this forever, and like I never would have been able to use it effectively again. And like that kind of sent me spiraling out. Um, you know, there were a few times where I just had the thought of, like, not necessarily that I wanted to jump into traffic, but there was one morning in particular when I was going into work and I accidentally smacked, like, not hard, but hard enough to hurt. Smacked my finger against like the side of the door, and I almost smashed my entire hand in the car door, just because I had that mindset for a split second of, if I can't use one finger, why the fuck should I use any of them? Which, yeah, luckily I snapped out of it pretty quickly, realizing how dumb that line of thinking was. But that's that's the verge I'm at all the time. It's always like, why even fucking bother? Why do I even need to go to work when constantly I'm there being treated like shit for $10 an hour? Why even bother going inside my house if I just have to deal with these kids screaming about such and such, and then ranting about something, and you offering advice on those problems? Okay, what the fuck ever. Just constantly on the fucking edge. And then you think it's going to get better, like, oh, I have these friends I can talk, and then just it turns out it doesn't matter how much you talk to them because they don't really get it. Even if you have friends that also may have anxiety or may also have depression or may have their own issues, like, it feels like you're kind of talking to a brick wall. And the brick wall sympathizes, it gets it, but it can't offer any solutions. Which, appreciated, I guess, effort. But no, that doesn't help me because now I'm in your space. I'm not really creating my own space. I'm still worthless and unable to do this thing for myself and unable to get better. And I'm not looking for anybody to fix it for me. I just need to know how to fix it myself, and I can't seem to be able to. Um, but yeah, but it's a depressing topic to talk about. It really is. Um, it's horrible. It's just it's horrible. I don't get why it's romanticized. I don't get why, you know, and you know, you see people all the time online, I'm triggered. This thing triggers me and blah blah blah. Your racism triggers me. And just, there's a difference between being upset about something or whatever just as just like, oh, this thing kind of pisses me off, to actually having an actual trigger for depression or anxiety or, whatever disorder you have, and actually being crippled by it because now you're stuck in this loop where you're reliving this moment and like you can't lash out because it's hard to describe. You can't lash out because you don't really know how. Like, you weren't allowed to lash out at the time, so you don't know how to lash out now. You're still in that loop of, if I say anything, I'm just going to be annoying, or if I do anything, it's just going to be seen as a cry for attention, which I'm not necessarily trying to do. But you do have to recognize that I want you to fucking stop. um it's a weird loop. It's just a constant state of, I'm okay, I'm not okay, but I'm gonna fake it. I'm no longer able to fake it, but I'm irritating everybody. I'm being an inconvenience this way, to why do I even care that I'm an inconvenience, to starting the cycle all over again. And it's not even necessarily that you can get out of that cycle when you get help. It's just more of, you have a longer streak of good days rather than back to back bad days. So, as depressing as this topic is, and as much as I necessarily didn't want to get into it too much, I do think that with how many people are struggling with it, with how many people are, that may happen and don't even realize it. Like, I didn't know until I was like 20. Fuck. Um, but I think that's pretty common with domestic abuse victims, that you don't really realize how bad the abuse was until afterwards when you're kind of reflecting on it. And like, I actually put up with being treated this way. Um, and there are better days. That This is a lot better than it was 4 or 5 years ago. It's it's not ideal. Um, I have no problem with people who do counseling and such like that. It's just that personally, I believe that as far as the counselors that I have associated with, with getting advice like meditation and yoga and dieting and all this fun stuff, like I've tried it all. I've tried it all. I've done the counseling. I've done the breathing exercises. I've done the lucid dreaming. I've done the Zen artwork. I've done the fucking, everything. Um, and for some people it works. For some people it doesn't. I think the only reason it doesn't right now for me is because my life in general is just not in the state that I want it, and that alone makes me depressed. So I'm still in that mindset of feeling like I'm constantly being taken for granted, even though I do everything I can to help people out, whether it be at work or at home or between friends or between, fucking whatever, strangers. um, in days especially like today where it's just, I'm without a phone for at least the next few days. But I just know it's going to be treated as more of an inconvenience for everyone else trying to get a hold of me than it ever would be for me. It doesn't matter if I'm inconvenienced if, nobody else needs me. Um, doesn't matter if I'm without a phone if nobody needs me, right? So, yeah. Just not that you asked, but I have PTSD and depression and anxiety. I guess depression is PTSD. No, it's not. I guess it's a different thing, or it's the same thing, or it's kind of both. I don't fucking know. Um, but it's an important thing to discuss. It's an important thing for people to know. Hey, I get it. I can't fully explain it, and I'm not going to compete that my depression is worse than yours or better than yours or fucking. I don't like that competition bullshit. I hate having a conversation with somebody and then being like, mine is way worse because blah, 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 blah. Like, bitch, I'm not saying I have it worse than everyone else. I'm just saying this is my struggle. And if my struggle helps somebody else get through their struggle, then it'll be worth it. That's the whole reason I get into writing, is just to help people. I mean, Derek was actually just a character I used to help channel the abuse that I was going through. I mean, he's become a lot more than that since then, since his creation, but that's tough. It is. It's really tough. And I always encourage people, if they can, to just seek out help. I would never go against somebody for seeking out counseling or for seeking out whatever they need to get through their problem. Not really over it, because you can't get over it. It's there. It's a part of you forever. You know. Um, Once you've had that mindset, it's hard to get over. You know, it took me forever to be able to look in the mirror and not hate the person I saw there. You know, and there are still people that might be watching this that are still going through that struggle. Just so you know, you're worth it. You're worth looking into the mirror and feeling proud of your own existence. You know, nobody told me that when I was going through it. So I'm here to tell you that you're worth it. You're more than worth it. Honestly, I think the only reason I'm not suicidal is because of one of my younger brothers. Back in middle school, I had contemplated for a moment trying out cutting, and then hid the knife when my brother, I'll leave his name out, he knocked on my door and then came in to tell me that dinner was ready. And, once he left, he didn't see the knife because I hid it. I just had this mindset of, oh my God, if I were to cut wrong, cut too deep, if something were to happen and I bled out, who the hell would look after him? Back then it was just basically me, him, and our psycho mother. And I was too young to do anything against her at the time. Like, because my grandmother was like 3 hours away. My grandmother's passed away now. But I didn't tell him that story until last year. And he's going to graduate next year. But yeah, it's tough. I think that's the only reason I've never, because I don't want to teach him that that's how you deal with something. I don't want to teach anybody that's how you deal with something, because it's not. There's always a better solution. Even as much as I say that I'm on the brink of just throwing myself into traffic, I'm always like teetering on the brink. That's for certain. I had to cross 3 lanes of traffic just to be able to get my own back, and being told they couldn't do anything, and it was, you know, tempting to not just be like, why don't I just lay in front of this UPS truck? But no, um, got to get through it. Not over it, because you can't get over it, but you got to get through it. Um, so there's a ton of resources out there, and the more resources I find, the more I'll put descriptions in the link below. I know there's a lot of places like BetterHelp and such like that, but sometimes people just don't have the financial means. For years, I didn't. So anything I find, I'll post the links below. But it is a discussion I wanted to get out there, just in case anybody else was having this issue. Um, just in case nobody wants to necessarily talk about it on Tumblr and be dubbed one of those people, whatever the hell. But just still have a place to reflect and not be guilted about it. Now I'm sick of guilting people over their mental illnesses. Ugh, neurotypical bastards. They don't know how good they have it, just having regular bad days. But anyway, I better stop ranting because it's getting pretty late, and I should probably, fake being human and, maybe go comatose even though it's late. Um, or early. Actually, it's pretty early for me. Normally, I end up passing out like around 11, but I don't know. I'm tempted to just pass out for more than 12 hours and then just fake that everything's okay. Um, anyway, before I end this video, I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching the posts that I've been putting up lately. For those of you who haven't watched the latest video yet for the Invader Zim ships that has been posted, I see it's gotten about 20 views since last night, which is pretty good considering I've been really inconsistent with my updates. Uh, I know that there's some lag on these videos. I apologize. I'm doing the best I can, and I haven't found good editing software yet for my laptop, so this is what we're stuck at. If anyone wants to recommend some great editing software for Dell inspiration, but if you have some good editing software advice, I'm happy to take it. And apparently, my connection is unstable, so I may or may not be able to be heard or seen or something. I don't know. Anyway, thank you so much, you guys. I'm sorry for ranting so long, but it felt like it was a needed topic to discuss. And part of the main reason why I started the Not That You Asked segment of this channel. So thank you again for your patience and for your support. Once again, if you want to see my most recent video in Deathbringer by Sean, and I also discussed the Invader Zim ships. I'm going to try and post another video tomorrow, especially since I don't have my phone. I need something to distract me. Hopefully, we'll be getting into something about the. You know what? I'm not going to say which fandom we're going to discuss. I'm just going to leave it as a surprise. Anyway, take care, you guys. Stay fansick. Hopefully, I can end this stream. Come on. End stream. Yes, I do want to end it. Takes forever. Yes, end the stream.